Does any part of you wonder if it's a stunt?
So you feel like you're fully prepared to be president of Ukraine?
No. Why not?
What's so dire on Earth right now that we need to colonize another planet? Have you been watching the news?
Today was meant to be the historic day the UK rid itself of the shackles of the European Union. Instead,
the noes to the left, 344.
It failed to approve Prime Minister Theresa May's Brexit withdrawal agreement for the third time, even with May offering to sacrifice her job if they did. Parliament has just 2 weeks to come up with a new plan the EU approves, or it'll crash out without a deal.
I fear we are reaching the limits of this process in this House.
Attorney General William Barr says he'll release the full Mueller report to Congress by mid-April, if not sooner. The reason for the delay won't please the collusion truthers hungry to read every line. Barr says it takes time to make nearly 400 pages worth of redactions. Pope Francis announced a law that requires Roman Catholic officials in Vatican City to immediately report sexual abuse allegations to prosecutors, or face fines or jail time. It's the first time the church has enacted mandatory reporting of sex crimes into law. And even though it only applies to city personnel and diplomats, the Vatican says it hopes to set an example for church officials around the world. At least 20,000 people attended a memorial service for the 50 victims of the Christchurch terror attack, with seats reserved for those still recovering in hospitals.
The world has been stuck in a vicious cycle of extremism breeding extremism, and it must end. We cannot confront these issues alone. None of us can.
People coming up, you know, they're all met by the lawyers, and they say the following phrase: I am very afraid for my life. I am afraid for my life. Okay. And then I look at the guy. He looks like he just got out of the ring. He's the heavyweight champion of the world. He's afraid for it. It's a big, fat con job, folks. It's a big, fat con job.
That was President Trump last night, whipping up his base with another distorted picture of the emergency at the southwest border. He continued his performance on Twitter today, promising to close the border next week if Mexico won't. Here in El Paso, you won't find the frightening people he's been describing, but you will find a system that's overwhelmed. CBP says it's on track to apprehend 100,000 migrants this month, the most in 10 years. And more than ever, they're coming as families. In El Paso, Border Patrol says they arrested more than 4,100 migrants on a single day this week. That's the reason they've given for holding families under the bridge behind me that connects to Mexico. Hola. ¿De dónde vienen? ¿Y cuánto tiempo llevan acá?
Tem 4 dias que nós estamos comendo isso aqui, ó. 4 dias.
4 días de comer eso, 4 días.
4 días.
Menos, só isso aqui, ó. Só pão.
No quieren que hablemos con ustedes, no quieren que hagamos entrevistas.
¿Quién no quiere? ¿Pero te dijeron que no pueden hablar con nosotros? ¿Qué te dijeron?
Y si nosotros hablamos, los tienen 15 días más aquí.
Experts say the Trump administration's rhetoric and policies, especially capping the number of asylum seekers who were processed at checkpoints, has driven more people to come north now and to cross over illegally instead of wait. Now that the humanitarian crisis is very real, the Trump administration is using it for effect. On Thursday, Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen sent Congress an urgent letter asking for more money and authority to deal with a system-wide meltdown. One ask: to deport children more quickly. CBP usually discourages filming its facilities, but they seemed eager for us to shoot this one, even giving us tips for where to get the best shots. Only officials here refused to talk to us on camera. They did, however, answer most of our questions when someone a bit more high profile showed up.
Is there any opportunity for both the benefit of the detainees and for your agents to find another location?
The problem is that these people need to be processed. Then we'll have to be transporting from there to here, from here to there. It makes the job more complicated.
And most of these families and detainees are not staying under the bridge longer than a day. I read an interview with you that...
I don't want to tell you, sir, that they are.
Is there any ability for me to talk to those who've been detained?
Not here.
Okay.
Not here, no, sir.
We were here this morning and they didn't stop us from talking. We talked to them for probably like 20 or 30 minutes.
It's interesting. I just asked Agent Cordero if I could go over and talk.
I mean, this has been around for about a month, even though it just made the rounds earlier this week, news of it. Does any part of you wonder if it's a stunt? I mean, no one has stopped us from filming. They've encouraged us to film.
I just asked the agent, are we trying to send a message by having people in the open air behind concertina wire and barbed wire and fencing with reporters allowed to go up and transmit these images?
It's all set
back.
up here.
Yeah, it invites the question, are we trying to send a message by the way that we are warehousing people at their most desperate moment? I've got to think there is the capacity and the resources to do a better job. And I put that not at the feet of the Border Patrol. I think they are trying to do their best. It's at the feet of this administration.
This is my cattle ranch. Been here since 1944. Lana and I have combined our ranches. We live together here. She loves cattle and, unfortunately, racehorses.
A river dam just over 4 miles from Paul Allen's ranch broke on March 14th after a bomb cyclone and record rain hit Nebraska, causing $1 billion of damage to agriculture alone. When the flood subsided, it left Paul's ranch covered with blocks of ice and a thick layer of mud.
When deer season comes along, we pretty much don't do anything else. I shot that one in about 65. The water in here was this deep. All these sacks are full of ruined seed. See where the dirt is on the roof? That's how high the water was.
This was the start of what the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration predicts to be an unusually destructive spring flood season. 25 states are at serious risk. Family farming hasn't been lucrative for decades. But the combination of natural disasters, tariffs, and rock-bottom prices caused Midwest farm bankruptcies to more than double over the last 4 years. It's no longer a rational choice to farm. It's an emotional one.
There's a dead cow right there. She was completely covered up the other day. There's probably about 60 or 70 more like that. What's gonna hurt us the worst is the bulls. We had some pretty good high-dollar Red Angus bulls, a couple of them that was really good ones. Probably $100,000 worth of cows. I keep looking up here in the timber thinking maybe there'll be another 30 or 40 walk out of there, but it's not happening. Who knows what stuff is out there that ain't even mine? Like that fuel barrel right there, it ain't even mine. And of course, all the fences are just gone. I know we'll get through it. It's just something you gotta do. The people that have been helping and calling us, crazy. All kinds of help out there.
They're going to have trouble recovering from this. USDA programs will be important to them, but it's also why community support like this is very important, that they'll need to band together and work together to help each other out.
It didn't get in the house, but...
It didn't get in our houses either, but that's the highest I ever seen it get. We'd have had any warning.
Maybe some of them won't make it through this storm or this problem, but the bulk of them will. I don't think that farmers want to quit. The challenge every spring of planting a new crop or watching the new birth on the farm is something that is rewarding in a way that people that aren't farmers and ranchers can't understand.
If there's one thing that's underpriced in the cattle business today, it's cows. Cows are cheap. The cattle business is a gamble, and we all know it. So you just work. And I think that cow got twins. She had 2 calves with her yesterday. One's way bigger than the other. But dang, I counted a lot of calves down there. They sure look happy today. We got the feed, we got the time. Ice will melt, who cares? And I do think that this cattle market is gonna get better. We're getting old and shouldn't even be doing this probably. You just get bucked off, you get up and get back on. That's all there is to it.
Хороший танец задали. Такий, знаєш, ми на дискотеці Вінницької області. Як дела?
Volodymyr Zelensky is both the Ryan Seacrest and the Julia Louis-Dreyfus of Ukraine. His TV talent show, League of Laughter, regularly gets some of the highest ratings in the country.
Добрый вечер! Добрый вечер, дорогие друзья! Погромче!
He's also been playing a sitcom version of the Ukrainian president for 3 seasons. But in an indicator of just how much Ukrainians appreciate the absurd, or just how desperate they are for change, Zelensky might be about to do it for real. He's now the unlikely front-runner in this week's presidential election. It's only a few days until the presidential elections.
Yes.
Why are you doing this?
Why not? This is my profession. Why not?
Okay.
This is my profession.
Do you not have a campaign to be running?
Yes.
You're a busy man.
Yes.
You'll be even busier if you become president.
Who knows? I don't know. I've never been there, so maybe they have Saturday and Sundays. I don't know. We'll see.
Hundreds of thousands took part in the Maidan Revolution in 2014. Back then, protesters had high hopes, ending endemic corruption and transforming the economy. But that was 5 years ago. Nothing's really improved, and Ukraine is still in a war with Russia that's seen 13,000 casualties. 38 candidates are running for president, although only 3 are serious contenders.
Slava Ukrainцам!
Current president and former chocolate oligarch Petro Poroshenko and 2-time presidential runner-up Yulia Tymoshenko are well known to voters, in part for the numerous allegations of corruption made against them both. Somehow, Zelensky is the most plausible fresh face.
В смысле, в четверг «Право на Владу» Зеленский участвует в шоу? Можно, там это в соцсетях уже анонсировали.
Mikhail took part in the protests in 2014. Back then, he voted for Poroshenko, a decision he now regrets. Was the revolution, in your opinion, a failure?
Можно судить, если смотреть с разных сторон. Например, если я там звоню своей маме, и там ее заработной платы хватает только заплатить коммунальные услуги. Понимание того, что людям старшего поколения стало жить намного хуже. Те же наши бабушки, они не могут свести коммуналку, заплатить за счета. Поэтому для большинства людей, с которыми мы общаемся, если Зеленский не победит, то они уедут отсюда просто, и все. Потому что 5 лет ждать новых выборов на то, что мы что-то повлияем, мы этого точно делать не будем.
Are you not worried at all that this man is a comedian and has zero political experience?
То есть нам сейчас в стране нужен человек, который может взять из того, что у нас есть, полного бардака, найти то, что мы можем монетизировать, и за счет этого развить нашу экономику. И неважно, был ли у него политический бэкграунд, был ли у него там какой-то научный там, и так далее. Нам нужен человек, который умеет из ничего создать все. И мне кажется, то, что у него не было политического опыта, это наоборот в этом плане плюс.
Разом!
Anti-government protests continue even today, as frustration with the political establishment lingers.
I don't want blood to be spilled again in the city.
But at least some Ukrainians see the demonstrations as a sign of immaturity. Mikhailo Petachuk lived abroad when the revolution happened. He plans to vote for Poroshenko again, but does say people need to manage their expectations of what he's actually able to achieve.
What went so wrong? I mean, the country was in such a dire situation in 2013, and I mean, from the outside, things have got more stable. At least things are not as bad as they were when Poroshenko came to power, and yet it doesn't look like he's going to win this next election.
Perhaps people had a bit unrealistic expectations. They still think in this authoritarian approach that president is a king and all his decisions are being implemented immediately. The whole society is still in this childish state. It still has to develop, and that's a problem with a lot of young democracies, that they just fall into the spiral of populism.
What's at stake here if he doesn't win, if one of the alternative candidates gets in?
I am very concerned regarding Zelensky, why I'm very worried the guy doesn't have a vision.
Zelensky insists he does have a vision for Ukraine, but he wasn't sharing it with us.
When it comes to your policies, I mean, if you are to actually become the president of Ukraine, what then? What are you actually going to do for this country?
Проблем я ставил бы коррупцию, и, конечно же, я бы очень хотел остановить войну на Донбассе, однозначно, потому что мы хотим, чтобы наши люди больше не погибали.
That all sounds very vague.
Война на Донбассе – это не общая вещь, это конкретная проблема, которая больше всего относится к нам, украинцам. И надо быть украинцем, потому что погибают именно украинцы. И поэтому ты это чувствуешь очень больно.
So you feel like you're fully prepared to be president of Ukraine?
Да. Да.
It's going to be fun.
Why not?
A Dutch company called Mars One is planning to establish a settlement on the Red Planet by the year 2023.
The Mars One mission says they want to send humans to Mars.
In 2012, Dutch business whiz Bas Lansdorp announced a multi-billion-dollar mission to colonize Mars.
Here's the catch. The voyage is a one-way ticket.
That's like a Twilight Zone episode, though.
Mm-hmm.
Tens of thousands of people have sent in audition tapes.
Hello, Earth. My name's Lauren Reeves, and I'm a human. Please send me to Mars.
I was born 100,100 years ago on Mars.
200,000 people applied, and 100 of them are still in the running. Why wouldn't we want to do this?
Layla, because you're almost guaranteed not to come back.
But this year, Mars One lost its investor. Lansdorp says he's working on a solution.
Mars One has filed for bankruptcy.
Bankrupt.
Now, the remaining Mars 100 candidates are left in limbo. And despite the odds, some of them are as invested as ever.
I don't think Mars One is dead. Space is hard. We're going to have to wait and see what the future holds for us. Listening to the rustle of the wind in the trees and the birds in the air is much more pleasant than listening to people. When I climb up someplace like this, I like to be alone. It's something that I've got a limited time to see because I plan to leave. When I was a sophomore in high school, we watched this documentary on the Red Planet. It talked about NASA's planned 2020 mission to Mars. Everything I did since I was 16, I made the decision based on, will this help me get to Mars? It became the central thing that influenced what I did, from not dating in college or after or high school, to deciding to study physics. I was born in the wrong century. I wish I could have been around when Christopher Columbus was getting ready to make that journey into the unknown. People thought that he was insane, that he would never succeed, that everyone would die. And to be fair, most of them did not do so well.
Basically, I want to put this one out and play with it, and then I want to pirate some of the parts for my set that I want to build, so. What is so important, what's so dire on Earth right now that we need to colonize another planet? Have you been watching the news? Global warming, overpopulation, war, famine, pestilence, death, you name it. I got an email from my husband, Ron, that said, I don't wanna, but I'd feel like a bad husband if I didn't send you a link.
We've been married for 27 years. There's no way that you can see something that says, do you want to go to the stars? Be married to Layla and not have the answer be, of course she does.
I've always wanted to be an astronaut and a doctor. I am an ER doctor, but I've applied to NASA and haven't ever made their class, and so this seemed like a fantastic opportunity. You gotta have a doctor in space.
My dream is to jump and run like a little child on Mars. It must be easy because your weight is 60% less than on Earth. I love Switzerland and I love these beautiful places, but for my dream, I have to give up all these beautiful things. It's a part of the mission to Mars. Let's lieber Elvira. Hast du es dort?
Es ist sein Kindheitstraum und ich weiß, wie viel ihm das bedeutet. Und ja, mal schauen, wie weit er dann kommt. Und soweit, ja, ich möchte ihm nicht im Weg stehen in seinem Traum.
In a normal conversation, we don't talk about Mars. When Mama is not at home, we talk about these cool things.
Also geht er ja zuerst in die Ausbildung zum Astronauten und bis es dann soweit ist, geht es ja dann noch eine Zeit und ist dann die kleine Jannika vielleicht auch schon 15, 16 und dann sieht ja alles wieder anders aus. Oder es kann ja auch sein, dass wir in 2 Jahren uns scheiden lassen oder in 3 Jahren und ja, man weiß ja nicht, was passiert bis dorthin.
I love my family overall, my daughters, it's the best thing in my life. But to go to Mars, the dream is bigger, it's longer, and for me, I think every person should have a dream. For me, it's fair to do this. It's fair because it's my life. If my daughter says to me, please daddy, don't go to Mars, I have to say, I have to go, and I hope she understands that this is my dream.
Ist das eine Mars-Rakete? Mars.
For those who think, oh my gosh, you're leaving your poor husband all by himself, well, that's actually not as difficult for us as you might think, because we happen to be polyamorous. And so we are each other's primary. That is to say, for each of us, the other is the central person in their life. I will not be upset if once I'm on Mars and can only talk to Ron over video clips or via email, if he has a girlfriend, because that's okay.
This is the last message that you can send to people on Earth. What would you say?
Just because a few people die on the path to making us an interplanetary species doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it.
The message to my family was, hey, I love you. Yeah. I love you.
In my last goodbyes, I would say first and foremost to my husband that I love him, and to my boyfriend Andy, I love you. And this is my last message to you, the people of Earth. Don't give up.